Every day, roughly 170,000 people die. Yet, for many of us, death stays almost invisible. It happens behind hospital curtains, in nursing homes, or in rooms we enter only after the hardest part is over. So death becomes both completely ordinary and strangely unknown. That distance can make it more frightening. The less we understand and experience, the more imagination fills the blanks. But physicians, philosophers, theologians, and spiritual teachers have tried to bring death back into view, not to sensationalize it, but to make it less alien. So what is death? A biological shutdown? A journey? An ending? A beginning? Or a reorganization of everything we are? Let's look at several great thinkers who answer that question in very different ways. A grounded place to begin is Surgeon Sherwin Nuland, author of How We Die. Nuland wanted people to see death as part of nature, not as a mystery medicine can always defeat. From his medical perspective, death is usually not one instant, it is a process. When the body is dying, one system begins to fail: the heart, lungs, brain, immune system, or several at once. Circulation weakens, tissues receive less oxygen, mental clarity may fade. A person may become confused, restless, sleepy, or less responsive. As oxygen falls, consciousness often slips away. Breathing becomes irregular, blood pressure drops, the body cools. Eventually, the heart stops, and brain activity ceases soon after. Biologically, death is the end of the body's integrated functioning. Nuland's point is not that this is easy to watch. He argues that modern culture often romanticizes death as calm, clean, and perfectly dignified. Sometimes it is peaceful. Sometimes it involves pain, breathlessness, agitation, fear, or involuntary movement. But care matters. Medication, touch, music, presence, and skilled support can reduce suffering and bring comfort. For Nuland, understanding death biologically does not make life colder. It makes life more honest. Since we have limited control over when or how we die, dignity may come from the choices we make while living: whom we love, what we repair, what we say out loud, and what we stop postponing. That echoes palliative care nurse Bronnie Ware, who wrote about common regrets near the end of life. Many people did not regret failing to gain more status. They regretted not living authentically, not staying close to loved ones, not expressing feelings, and not choosing what mattered sooner. So Nuland's view is simple but powerful. Death is natural, and accepting that can redirect attention back toward life. But biology is not the only lens. Psychiatrist Raymond Moody approached death through near-death experiences. In Life After Life, Moody collected accounts from people who had come close to death and later revived. He helped popularize the phrase near-death experience. The stories often shared recurring features. Some people reported feeling separated from their bodies and observing the room from above. Many described calm or acceptance. Some said they encountered deceased loved ones. Others described darkness, unusual sounds, light, or a boundary they could not cross before returning. Moody saw these patterns as clues that dying may feel less like a sudden blackout and more like a passage. He did not prove what happens after death, and near-death experiences remain debated across medicine, neuroscience, psychology, and philosophy. But his work gave people language for experiences that felt profound, orderly, and meaningful. Moody's view offers one kind of comfort. Perhaps death is not only an ending we fall into, but a threshold we move through. Whether one accepts that or not, his research invites humility. There may be dimensions of dying we do not yet understand. Other thinkers focus less on thresholds and more on finality. The American philosopher Thomas Nagel argued that death is the end of conscious experience. When you die, there is no longer a you having thoughts, sensations, worries, or pain. At first, that seems as if it should remove fear. If death contains no experience, then it cannot feel bad. You cannot suffer being dead, because there is no subject left to suffer. But Nagel asks a harder question. If death cannot be experienced, why does it still seem bad? His answer is that death is a loss. It deprives us of a future. It takes away the experiences, relationships, discoveries, projects, and ordinary mornings we might have had. In Nagel's view, death is not bad because it hurts after it happens. It is bad because it cuts off the goods of life. Even if we never notice the deprivation, something valuable has still been lost. Epicurus, the ancient Greek philosopher, begins from a similar assumption but reaches a calmer conclusion. For Epicurus, death is simply the absence of sensation. When we are alive, death is not here. When death is here, we are not. Therefore, he argues, death is nothing to us. This does not mean grief is nothing, or that dying is never difficult. It means being dead is not a condition we experience. Epicurus thought that if we understood this, we could loosen death's grip on our imagination. Nagel and Epicurus stand close together, but face different directions. Nagel says death matters because it deprives us of life. Epicurus says death should not terrify us because we will never experience it. One honors the tragedy of finitude, the other offers peace through clarity. Then there are thinkers who see death not as an ending, but as a beginning. C.S. Lewis, writing from a Christian perspective in Mere Christianity and other works, presents death as a doorway into eternal life with God. For Lewis, human longing for joy, beauty, love, and permanence points beyond this temporary world. Death is not the extinction of the self, but entrance into a fuller reality. Many religious traditions imagine death in similar broad terms, not disappearance, but transition. Different cultures describe that transition differently, and these beliefs should not be flattened into one story. But they share a common intuition. Visible life may not be the whole of existence. Plato, writing centuries earlier, also described death as release. In dialogues such as the Phaedo, he suggests that the soul is distinct from the body. The body can distract us with appetite, fear, pain, and illusion. Death frees the soul from those limits, allowing it to pursue truth more directly. To modern ears, Plato's view may feel strange. Many people today see body and self as inseparable, but his argument still raises an enduring question. Are we only the physical organism, or is there something about consciousness, reason, or personhood that cannot be reduced to the body? For both Lewis and Plato, how we live matters, because death does not erase meaning. It reveals it. Life becomes preparation, formation, and orientation toward what one believes comes next. Finally, consider the Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, whose view avoids a simple choice between ending and beginning. In No Death, No Fear, he argues that nothing truly disappears. Things change form. Look at a cloud. When it becomes rain, we may say the cloud is gone, but its water continues in the river, soil, tea, body, and leaf. The form has changed, but the elements remain in motion. Thich Nhat Hanh applies this to us. The carbon, water, minerals, and energy that make up the body existed before us and continue after us. At death, the body decomposes and re-enters the world. Its elements are taken up into plants, air, soil, animals, weather, and other living systems. He also speaks of non-physical continuation. Our words, actions, love, mistakes, teachings, and kindness ripple outward. A parent continues in a child's habits. A teacher continues in a student's questions. A friend continues in the courage they helped someone find. In this view, the self is not a sealed container that appears at birth and vanishes at death. It is more like a pattern temporarily gathered from the world, then redistributed back into it. So, where does this leave us? Nuland shows death as a biological process and asks us to live honestly. Moody presents death as a possible journey and asks us to stay open to mystery. Nagel sees death as the loss of a future and reminds us why life is precious. Epicurus sees death as the absence of experience and asks us not to fear what we cannot feel. Lewis and Plato see death as a beginning and invite hope beyond the visible world. Thich Nhat Hanh sees death as transformation and asks us to notice how nothing exists alone. These perspectives do not all agree. They cannot all be true in the same way, but each can soften a different fear. If you fear the physical process, Nuland offers knowledge and care. If you fear annihilation, Moody, Lewis, Plato, or Thich Nhat Hanh offer images of continuation. If you fear suffering after death, Epicurus says there is no suffering to experience. If you fear losing the life you love, Nagel gives that grief philosophical dignity. Perhaps the deepest lesson is that thinking about death is not only about death, it is about attention. Mortality asks what we are doing with the brief, uncertain time in front of us. Who needs to hear from you? What are you waiting to forgive? What work still feels worth doing? What would change if you stopped assuming there will always be later? Death may remain mysterious.